I think I finally found my people.
What I'm saying is we got to stop telling ourselves these ideas and theories in our head that hasn't been tested. The only testing and evidence that we're comparing it to is what we see on social media, which is very dangerous because everybody has an opinion, just like my unpopular opinion. But as you notice, accountability is at the end of it. So I'm living through experience and I'm sharing these nuggets and these tidbits with you so you can kind of shave off some time and maybe learn from my missteps and maybe take away some of the things I said that worked and a lot of things that didn't work. When you're married, you're one. And so those two people are merging inconsistencies, inadequacies, accomplishments, esteem. They're learning how to gel and mesh. So if I'm living where I'm at and you over where you at, and I say, okay, this is ideal, I cannot be the best wife for you. Actually, it's putting a toll on me to have to clean and cook in my house and clean and cook at your house, finance at my house, financier at your house, budgeteer at my house, budgeteer at your house. And then we got to date one another and figure out when our schedules sync because I ain't laid eyes on you. I don't know what your needs is. So how can I be your helpmeet or helpmate if I don't know what your needs is? How can you look in my eyes and know what my needs are? Because a lot of the needs are assessed non-verbally. Amen. When you're in a relationship, in any type of relationship, sisterhood, brotherhood, or marriage, when you're in those relationships, a lot of the needs are met and assessed because you're looking at the nonverbal cues. A lot of us say we cool and we good because we're conditioned to do that, but we're not. Only time you can really decipher what's real and what's fact and fiction is to lay eyes on the situation. So even to that point, I'm not saying you don't trust, but I'm saying, have you laid eyes on that situation? Have you called that man or woman and been like, you good, you straight, the garbage taken out, the da 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 da? I think it's easier to forget those things, because you're so self-consumed with your own selfish needs over at your own crib. So you might miss trash takeout day. You might miss the disconnect notices. You might miss the woman or man paying the bill that they said they was going to pay over your house because they got their own situation. And go to the financial part of this. It makes absolutely no sense when you become one in flesh. You get committed in the covenant under God. And a lot of people say that's just a earthly, worldly contract. It is a commitment and covenant that God hopefully has blessed. When you don't go into it with God first in your relationship, then you're going to look at it just like a piece of paper. However, it is a very important piece of paper because if you're going and you're jumping the gun and jumping the broom before God sanctions it, before God says yes, because it is a very trying, tumultuous journey, but it can be a fulfilling journey. Because see, when you're married but living separate, you're not consummating your marriage. It's on schedule. It's on a time basis. It's on an availability basis. I couldn't imagine because when you in love, you want to share the God moments with each other, not just the good moments with each other. You want to share the droughts so you can pour into one another. You want to look over and roll over and look at your man cooking or your woman cooking, loving to do their housely duties, their leadership duties. You want to look at that in the moment. See that real time, not log in, not check his security and see. Both of y'all then picked up another part-time, full-time job, just checking the security cameras to make sure it is what they say it is. And then you're driving by, you're wasting gas, you're losing more finances. Remember, we're going back to living in two separate households. So now you got to be financially stable to be able to do that and financially equipped. To be separate like that when you're married, what's the purpose? Health benefits? What is the purpose? Just to say you're married? There's no way I would have wanted to live those 13 years apart. Now, when it was time to separate because the marriage was dwindling and people get comfortable and lose sight of the scope and fail to recommit to that covenant and the constitutes of marriage, then I decided to say, you know what? It seems like you want to live a double life. It seems like you want to be out there in them streets. It seems like you want to be out there entertained in those different bedrooms and different opportunities. It seems like you enjoy lying to me more than telling the truth. Could I have found all that out, not living with this person, without having to take on another full-time and a half job just to investigate as Inspector Gadget? Hell, when you with somebody, you got to be Inspector Gadget and you find out a lot. Could you imagine the absence of my presence or that man's presence in that woman's life and you just got to take their word for it? Especially when there's distrust in the atmosphere or even just because we're human and we make mistakes. Man, I'm not trying to work that hard. God ain't said nothing about that. You become one. So if you become one in two separate households, it's more than God in the middle. It's temptation in the middle. People are tempted in their homes when they go in the bathroom and look at pornography, when they in their office, home office, and they act like they ain't talking to nobody. They're tempted every day. So you got to be in warfare in that environment. How you going to warfare in his house and your house at the same time, ladies? How you going to do that? How you going to fight against the principalities of darkness and the vices that come in and out and the spirits that come in and out that's roaming? Because you didn't open the door. You got two doors open, your house and his. How y'all gonna do that? Because I know for a fact, God kept us and kept me free from a lot of attacks that was trying to form but did not prosper. And I'm telling you, that was consistent spiritual warfare. All time warfare. Do you hear me? Especially when people have undercover habits and issues that are going on that you don't know about and you ain't gonna find out about in a separate household. I promise you. I promise you, just like they ain't gonna find out about you in a separate household. They ain't gonna see all the little cracks and crevices in your armor. They ain't gonna see all the little holes in your story in another household. Trust me, 13 years over here, and I believe in the constituted marriage, but I also believe into slow walking that thing. I also believe in the premarital counseling, absolute must. Post-counseling, absolute must. Absolute, because people gonna be tempted even in the sanctity of marriage, even in one household. You're going to have to learn conflict resolution between two people, not just you and your mind, okay? You got to learn effective communication, okay? You got to dig into those unresolved issues. Oh, it's a lot of work. I wouldn't dare want to take on another household to do 2 times the work. Matter of fact, it's 3 times the work. Your work, his work, and then y'all got to work on y'all marriage. Child, bye. Stop listening to these ticker-talkers and all these social media. I think this will work better because what it is, you got to look at the heart of the person that's speaking something like that. That's crazy. You got to look at what is the selfish motive and intent of why you feel that's okay. Why do you really feel that's working for you? That actress who I adore, Miss Cheryl Raff, she said, I am a good wife. How do you know? What are you measuring that to? You not getting on his nerves or he not getting on yours? You getting the benefits of being his wife entitled in theory? Or you walking that thing out together? Because see, it's preference. I love my man to love on me, okay? I love my man to have to roll over, not drive over and rub my feet. And I love to massage him, not have to schedule a massage of availability. I love to be able to be intimate with my husband, my partner, right? Whenever I want to. I want my husband to be excited about my accomplishments and the things and opportunities and blessings that God has given me. And I want to be able to see him every day come through the door and I be his peace and his calm because he's been out there in the world in the storm. Okay? I love that. I love to nurture and feed his belly and not just his belly, but his soul and his spirit and empower him. Okay? Okay? Come on now. I love to see the effects of that. Now, you got some people that don't appreciate it, and then that leads to separation and divorce and other things. You got some people that abuse these types of things, and that leads to separation and divorce. But you got to know who you are and what your intent is. And to this day, even post-divorce, I love who I am as a woman, as a mother, and as a wife. But I love also how God loves me in all those categories, and he's going to fulfill my every need and desire. But I will never, ever consider moving in 2 separate residences, because if that person gets on my nerves that much or I need that much space, then we just got to bring our resources together and get the house of my dreams, which I'm always get a big house, whether I live alone or not. We got to have a big enough house where you have your studios and offices and I have mine. And then we have a meeting room, which I'm going to talk about on my next vlog, the honeymoon room. Woo, the honeymoon suite. Y'all don't know nothing about that. I'm going to tell you about that. All right. So, no. This is your girl, Miss Motivation Mogul Mindset, Ava Shree, the Inspired, and absolutely, that ain't happening. We ain't doing none of that. All right, God's love and God's peace, God's rest to you. Sit down somewhere because you're doing too much. All right, take care.